Good evening, councillors. Good evening, members of the public. I'd like to welcome you and introduce you this evening to the Sandwich Town Council quarterly meeting this evening on Monday the 26th of February 2024. Unfortunately this evening my chaplain is not here, so I'm afraid we haven't got grace or his prayers for the council, but I'm sure that your estimable principles and historic interests will carry us through this evening. So thank you very much for that. I've got item number 1 down as the Chair's opening remarks, and my remarks this evening, I'll try and keep them as short as possible. First of all, obviously I wanted to welcome the new member of staff, Lindsay, who joined us on the 15th of February, and she, if you haven't met Lindsay, she's an exceptional lady, and we're hoping that she's going to support Jill and the council to a very high degree as she gets herself sorted out and gets settled in. I noted the council and the councillors have been doing some sterling works, absolutely fantastic works, over the past month. There's been so much going on, it's sort of making my head spin almost, actually. And I saw the other day, although I wasn't able to attend it, the hedgerow planting in Cowley's Meadow, which is a fantastic thing because that ties in with the council being environmental and assisting with our climate change declaration that we made there. On a lesser note, I had to attend on Friday. It was Ted Kingsland, who was a long-term councillor, ex-mayor, president of Rotary. He did just about everything in the town. He was absolutely fantastic, and I believe Councillor Franklin was at the back of the church there, but he had a fantastic send-off, and the town council saluted the great works he'd done, and we flew the flag at half-mast on the council's flagpole there, so which was good. Also, I saw that the Assets Group had reviewed the cinema, which is a really good thing because the cinema quite often is one of those items that quite often gets forgotten and left to one side. So it's quite nice that the council has made a move towards making a better understanding between ourselves and our leaseholders there. One of the delights that I enjoyed very much, and actually it proved to be very, very positive, was attending the new tourism forum that we had in the hub the other evening, and I was amazed by the number of people there and the amount of absolute fantastic ideas and positive initiatives to take forward, and I was really, really astounded at that, and I'm looking forward to that going forward. So we've got a very good chair and a very good secretary now, so that's very good that will take us forward there. Last Friday we also had the start of the AIM training, so those that are on the Museum and Archives Committee have had some museum training as well to assist us to make sure that the museum is taken forward in a new and positive way for the forward plan there. And then the only other thing that I was going to raise was to do with future events that have been set. I met with our new rector, and I've asked for his support, and there's quite a large number of events this year for Sandwich Town Council, including, of course, the big one will be Speakers' Day, which will be on the 5th of October, and the church will be supporting us on a number of events. And I must say, for those of you that don't frequent the church, they've got a fantastic choir, a fantastic organ, and the new rector is a very, very, very community minded person. So he said he's going to work very closely with the council and with myself to support the town. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. It's about us all working together in leadership, so which is quite good. And was that all the items? Thank you very much for those. Item number 2 were apologies for absence. Town Clerk, did we have any apologies?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So yes, we have apologies from Councillor Peabring, Council Work Commitment, Councillor M Pennington, Travel Commitment, and Councillor Sue Chandler from Kent County Council due to illness.
Thank you very much. And item number 3 is declarations of interest, and this is to receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interests from members in respect of business to be transacted on this agenda tonight. If you have any declarations, please declare them now. Thank you very much. That is a nil return on that one. Is that okay? Okay. And item number 4 is minutes of the full council meeting, this is was for the ordinary meeting of Sandwich Town Council, which was held on the 29th of January 2024, and this is to consider any matters arising for those minutes not covered elsewhere in the agenda, and this is attachment 1A. Do we have any items to raise about the minutes? And if we don't have any items to raise on, Councillor Chuka.
Yes, good evening. Just associated to the minutes is the action log. I only just wanted really to pick out one action that's outstanding, and it's probably an important action in relation to the bus stop fee and what we were going to do in terms of engaging with other parties to reconvene and work through the issues that we still have. So I don't know if any progress has been made on that, but it is an important issue that we do need to at least try and address.
It is, I agree with that. Town Clerk, would you like to reply?
So I have had contact with Dover District Council, and there is a proposed date, but until I've communicated that with members, obviously it won't be confirmed, and I obviously need to check with the Mayor as well. But I do have a proposed date, so I will be emailing tomorrow to propose that and make sure that everybody's agreeable.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there were no further questions, could I have a proposer and seconder for the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 29th of January, please? So, Councillor Morehouse, are you proposing? Councillor Morehouse proposing, Councillor Gray is seconding, and all those in favour please show in the suggested manner. Thank you very much. I think that's unanimous, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. And the second item in 4 is to approve the minutes of the extraordinary meeting of Sandwich Town Council held on the 9th of February 2024, and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. And this is attachment 1B. Are there any items to raise about these minutes, first of all? And if there are not any items to raise, could I have a proposer and seconder? I didn't attend, so I can't propose or second them. So. Thank you very much, Councillor Ungerson. And could I have a seconder? And that's Councillor Fortescue. And all those in favour of these minutes, please show.
I'm saying because I wasn't here.
Oh, that's a good idea too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much, councillors. And the next item is to receive the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 10th of January 2024, and this is attachment 1C. Has anybody got any issues to raise on these minutes at all? These were, there was a couple of quite important items on these minutes, one of which got deferred to the January meeting later on. So if there's not any issues on those minutes, could I have a proposer and seconder, please, for the planning minutes? Councillor Franklin and Councillor Wiles. And all those in favour of the planning minutes, please show in like manner.
Two abstentions. Councillor, yeah, Councillor three abstentions.
Abstentions. So that is carried. Thank you very much. And then item number 4 of 4 is to receive the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee meeting, which was held on the 15th of January 2024, and this is attachment 1D for Delta. And does anybody have any issues to raise on these minutes at all? If there are no issues to raise, could I have a proposer and a seconder for that? So, thank you very much. Councillor Anderson proposing and Councillor Gray seconding. And all those in favour of these minutes, please show in a likewise manner.
Three abstentions.
Three
Thank you.
abstentions. And that's carried. Thank you very much. That's on there. Is that okay? Yeah,
Yes, that's fine.
See,
Yes.
yeah, that's okay there. That's good. And moving forward, councillors, on to agenda item number 5. We have the payment schedules, and item number 5A is to receive and note the payments for mid-February totalling £31,040.41. Those payments which are not supported by a minute reference have been authorised by officers with delegated powers of expenditure. And item 5B is to receive and approve the schedule of payments for February totalling £8,194.96, and these are attachments 2A and 2B, and I propose to take these on block. Has anybody got any issues with these items? And if not, could I have a proposer and seconder for these financial things? Councillor Morehouse and Councillor Franklin. And all those in favour of items 5A and 5B, please show now. So that those two items have been passed. Thank you. Okay, and then items 5C is council to confirm the nomination of 2 signatories to authorise the end of February payment schedules on Bankline. And item 5D is council to confirm nomination of 2 signatories to authorise the mid-March payment schedules on Bankline. Have we got some, Town Clerk, sorry, have we got some new nominees at all? I don't know.
No, it's not.
Not all of us, okay. I will put myself forward for these 2, and there's not any payments to me on those, so that's quite safe for me. So could I have one other nominee for payments, Councillor Franklin?
Is that for the end of February, Councillor Franklin?
Is that for both of those? You're
Yeah,
okay?
I'll do both if you don't want. Yeah, don't quite have to while I've got to do it. So that's fine.
Yeah, that's for both of those. So we're proposing that the Mayor and Councillor Franklin will undertake the 2 nominated bank signatories for the end of February and for mid-March. All of those in favour, please show now. Okay, thank you very much, and that's passed. Thank you on that. And then I think that is derobing
I
times
think it is.
with public participation. So
Yes.
I would like to just pause this meeting so that councillors can derobe and return to the chamber. Thank you very much. The live feed is still running, so please be careful if you say it. Sorry to be. Should we take the mace?
Yes.
Do you want me to take it or you want me to take it? Neil's got my gloves on. Mind the cables, won't you?
Yeah, I did, yeah, but she has to be working on it. There, isn't it?
Yeah, I found it's capital G, capital G, Guildhall, capital S for Sam. We try again.
Really right.
Yeah, really right. Try again. Capital G. Really.
I'm not doing it.
Capital S.
I did for 4 months. This is this way. Because there's a tractor.
Oh, that's another.
Yeah, so well, you're not going to post. A lot better, thank you. She's conscious of
Good evening, Councillor. I'd like to reconvene the meeting. Thank you very much for coming back so promptly. We're now on to item number 6, which is public participation. And this is a 20-minute session set aside for members of the public to make representations at the meeting in respect of the business on the agenda and other matters if time permits. Individual representations should not exceed 5 minutes, with written notice of desire to exercise the right to speak together with the topic to be addressed must be given to the town clerk prior to noon on the day of the meeting. And I believe that we have one public speaker tonight. So, Councillor Gray.
Right, may I make a point of order, please?
Indeed, please do.
Our standing orders in the section dealing with public participation in meetings reads, this is standing order 518. The chair will indicate the follow-up that will be given to each public speaker, e.g. a written reply or action allocated to a councillor, a committee, subcommittee, working group or an officer. We really, very rarely seem to do this, and we still leave speakers walking back to their chair facing a sea of blank spaces, and I really would ask that the council should abide by this standing order.
Indeed, I agree. Thank you very much for raising that matter, Councillor Gray. That's very important. I will take that to note this evening to start with. Public speaker number 1, would you, Mrs. Hayter, would you like to?
Only.
Yeah, well, no. What would you do with her? Would you like to come and address the council, please?
Fayre.
And I I'm not sure, do we have our timekeeper? We don't, no.
No, I'm here to do
Oh,
that.
you were going to do the
Yeah.
timekeeper.
I won't be more
Oh,
than 5
we-
minutes.
The town clerk will
Be
keep
nice
you to
to
your,
me.
be nice
Yes.
to you and
And before I start, Mr. Chair, I would like to say a thank you to one of your councillors. May I do that? That's over and
indeed
above.
you may, if it's a
Thank you.
positive motion. Yeah, that'd be very nice.
I would just like everybody in Sandwich to know that I came down to the offices the other week with an issue, and I happened by chance to bump into Councillor Cooper. And I always pronounce his name wrong, sorry.
That's okay.
And he just dealt with the problem. It was seen, done, finished in the same day. And if you go back 2 years in this council, you would never have seen that. So I'd like to say, on behalf of everybody in Potter Street, thank you very much.
Thank you for that. That's I encourage the
I always give credit where credit is due.
credit for. Thank you very much.
I
for
also
that,
give
Mr.
minuses.
Indeed. You have to, without being a quizmaster, you have 5 minutes starting now.
Great. Good evening. Approximately 6 years ago, I began lobbying for a meaningful and effective police presence in and for the residents of Sandwich and the connecting villages. To this end, and on several occasions, I addressed Sandwich Town Council on the topic, met with and wrote to our local MP, wrote to the Chief Constable and to Mr. Scott, the Police and Crime Commissioner. Eventually, Mr. Scott was persuaded to come to an open meeting in Sandwich to discuss the issue with residents. This took place roughly 4 years ago. Sadly, and as with most of these meetings, it turned into a meaningless public relations exercise. Nothing of import was agreed upon, and certainly no meaningful action taken. But, and this is very important, I'd like you all to remember this, Mr. Scott did make it clear that he and the Chief Constable thought PCSOs were effective, efficient and value for taxpayers' money. Whilst acknowledging it wasn't the PCSO's fault that they didn't have the necessary powers to act on so many issues, I and others disagreed with their assessments. Then due to COVID, lobbying was on hold. But last year, whilst attending a police meeting with regard to violence against girls and women, lo and behold, I learned Kent Constabulary had reduced the number of PCOs by roughly 3/4. This demonstrates to me that the Chief Constable and Mr. Scott's previous appraisal was flawed. At the same meeting, I learnt the Dover area had been assigned 10 new police officers. I immediately asked the commander for a designated officer for Sandwich and subsequently was very pleased to hear we had been allocated PC Air Jackson, whom I have had the pleasure of meeting. Aside from being an effective and efficient officer, she is very keen to be part of our community. All of this is good, except that on further, dare I say, investigation, she is only assigned here on a permanent basis for 1 day a week, which is not good enough. The Chief Constable and Mr. Scott have demonstrated by their previous position and subsequent actions to be totally out of touch with the needs of residents and continue to be so by denying us the expertise and commitment of PC Air Jackson on a full-time basis, especially when she rightly assists her colleagues in Deal and surrounding villages as and when necessary. So on behalf of the residents of Sandwich, I'm asking all of you councillors to once again stand up, speak out, to lobby our MP, to lobby the Chief Constable, to lobby Mr Scott, the Police and Crime Commissioner, and engage with the media for assistance on this issue in order to ensure the residents of Sandwich receive the service they pay for, deserve and need. Do not allow them to continue to overlook us as has happened so often in the past. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs Hayter. So, before you leave, could I just sort of take up what Councillor Gray was talking about?
Okay.
So, obviously, myself, the town clerk, can write to the PCC and also to the Chief Constable and lobby them directly via a
Yes,
letter.
it's got to be incessant, I'm afraid.
Incessant. I'm not sure if I do incessant. I'm sorry
You
about that.
have to do incessant when you're dealing with
I see.
politicians and
I
bureaucrats.
see. But I have tried to follow up on this, and you will see tonight I do ask that the police officer attends the monthly meetings, and unfortunately she's always told me that she's not able to attend because she's not scheduled, she does not have the time to come
That
to
is
these
because
meetings.
she isn't allocated
No,
properly
exactly.
here.
No, that's
the
right.
problem.
That's right.
Which
So,
isn't necessarily her fault.
No,
She has to
no.
does as she's told.
No.
I don't have to do as I'm told.
no, of course not, no. But I can say that I will write a letter to the Chief Constable and the PCC to follow up on what you've said, to try and arrange that more time is spent by RPC in this town. And it was not the arrangement that we were told in the very beginning.
No, you
Because-
see, you can't believe them.
The previous police constable Matthew had actually said that we were going to get the new police officer for a much more lengthy time, and of course that's not the case. So but we can send a letter for you to the PCC.
And as you're talking to me, I feel I'm all right to talk back over the 5 minutes.
Please do.
Is the other thing that is extremely important in my view, especially because I'm involved with the violence against girls and women. You have to have a place here where somebody who has issues which are obviously potentially dangerous and you don't want it talked about all over the
Indeed.
place. It's no good saying to them, like they say, ring up. People don't want to ring up about sensitive issues like that. They want to be able to go to a safe
course.
place
Indeed.
where they know there's going to be their local officer and they can say what they need to say in confidence.
Indeed. I'll raise that as well in my
Yes,
letter.
do it all.
Thank
yes,
you.
I'll just give
I'm
this
sure my
the-
councillors will also assist with your request as well. So
Yes, I'm sure they will. I'll just give this
Thank you.
you.
thank you very much for that, Mrs. Hayter. So, Councillor Chuka.
I just wondered whether it would be sensible that when we come closer to the annual town meeting that we invite maybe the PCC to attend. It's only once a year we have that event,
I have.
and it would be good because that is what we've got is one representation of the policing model here. There may be another version, so it would be good to hear what is the presence like and how do they actually police the town as opposed to having a person stationed here. So there
Indeed.
must be a model that they're using, and I don't understand
Exactly.
it, so I'd appreciate hearing about
Oh,
it.
sure, yeah. You must have actually been leaning over my shoulder last night, because last night I was drawing up a shortlist for the town clerk of people to attend the annual town meeting, which was going to include the police, DDC, KCC officers, etc., and the local water board as well. So we will put that on the. We've made a note of that. The town clerk. Councillor Black.
Yes, Mr. Hadley, you may not be aware that we've had 4 drop-in centres which we have invited the local officer to attend. She has not been able to attend every single one. We've had 2 in age concern, and we've had 2 in the Jubilee Centre. And so we are actually actively driving to have this place where people can talk to the officer in confidence. There's other councillors there, but if they want to talk to the officer in confidence, the councillors withdraw. And we had a session a few days ago in the Jubilee Centre.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. That's good. And moving on, if there's no more further questions, moving on, item number 7, we have a verbal report from our Dover District Councillor on matters relating to Sandwich. Councillor Morehouse, would you like to address the council, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, after the last reading of War and Peace earlier last month, this is somewhat briefer. Right, going on to things that I'm dealing with in Sandwich at the moment. One is wayfarers and the fencing. I have been in touch with the DDC again for an update on that. I do know there has been some fencing erected. If the fencing that has been erected is the sum total of the fencing that is going to be erected, I don't particularly see an issue with it, because it is not interfering with the street scene as such. I've asked for an update on Fellowship Walk, which I'm waiting to get an update on that, to be honest, for other reasons. And the limes, I have been in contact with Councillor Edward Biggs, who is the portfolio holder for planning and the built environment. Unfortunately, he's referred my inquiry to Roger Walton. So I've now got to wait for Roger Walton to respond back on that. I've also had inquiries about the bin collection, and particularly residents who will not participate in online transactions. And I'm waiting for an answer from the Ian Dudding, who's the head of waste services.
Thank you for that.
And I think that's about it for this month.
Well, that's super. Oh, thank you very much for that.
And the other thing I have is I've called in the planning application for 6 St Peter Street.
Oh, indeed, that's
on the basis of the turning a commercial property into a residential dwelling.
Thank you.
And I'm also in the process of doing the same for 12 Britannia Terrace.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, and the one to do with the green wheelie bins was something a resident brought to me, and an elderly couple that live in Dover Road, and they actually popped round to see me, and they inquired about it, and they said they don't have access to computers, they do not have smartphones, they do not have any ability, so they telephoned the Dover District Council offices, said that they would like to renew their green waste contract at their property in Dover Road, and the lady at the other end of the telephone said, oh, if you log on you can renew it online. And then she went through the discussion of I'm not able to log on, and they said, oh well, if you do it on your phone you can do it on your phone. They said we can't do it on our phone. And so the lady said, the resident said, oh well, can I just do it over the phone with you? And she was told no. So that is not an equality that we can actually stand and accept. So I asked Councillor Morehouse to look into this. We cannot have these matters that payments for services and even getting access to services cannot be equally able for organisations such as councils or other authorities that supply services, which would include the water board and electricity board. So I've got Councillor Chuka first and then Councillor Marie.
So I'd just like to echo that. I covered reception for 4 weeks, and the one problem that occurred more than once with different residents was exactly the ability to access services in the absence of their ability to use the internet. The town clerk got drawn into an issue with a couple that had to come in to the offices here 4 times because they just could not get things sorted, and in the end we couldn't help them because they had to have their card reader with them, and even when they did bring it in on the 4th visit, it didn't work successfully. This isn't acceptable to a couple that were probably in their 80s, having to go home, think about how to process their information to come in and get somebody to help them.
Exactly.
Just unacceptable.
Indeed, I agree with that. Councillor Marie and then
Yeah, further on to that, Mr Mayor, I have been in discussion with DDC Parking Services many years ago. Sandwich Council used to sell parking permits to residences that used to have visitors come in to park in certain areas in the car parks in the town. That was stopped a few years ago. As I said, I'm currently in contact with DDC Parking Services and the town clerk to see if we can bring them back in to help people instead of paying it online because of the troubles that they have.
Indeed, thank you very much for that, Councillor Marie. That's a very good service there. And Councillor Franklin, please.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of residents realise what's available at age concern just there. They do have a Dover District Council person come in there quite regularly, and someone from the health comes over. So if anyone has any problem, just steer them into age concern, and they get all the support, help to fill the forms in and everything, internet. So age concern is very supportive of the elderly population, but we've got to sort of steer the people over there.
Indeed, thank you very much.
Sorry to come back on that. It's only once a month, so when somebody comes in, and that's exactly what we did, Councillor Franklin. But to say to someone, actually, you might be able to see a Dover District Councillor officer in 3 weeks' time, it's just not a good service. But it is available. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
And what you're saying there, Councillor Tuker, actually takes me back in my councillor years, the same as Councillor Franklin, when we used to have a Dover District Council desk downstairs, actually in the lobby, and they were here Monday to Friday. I can't remember how many hours a day, but there was a presence here during the week, Monday to Friday, and of course that was cut many years ago. Councillor Ripley.
Yes, just to add another thing in, there are particularly elderly people that can't get out of their homes and don't have access to the internet.
Indeed.
So it really does need a rethink, the whole system of how you pay.
It certainly does. And if anybody knows of any other services or issues like this, please raise them with either myself or the town clerk so we can champion them for the people. And as Councillor Ripley quite rightly said, if it's people that are housebound for whatever reasons, we must be able to assist them as well. So thank you very much for that. Thank you, Councillor Morehouse, for that. So item number 8 is a verbal report from our Kent County Council on matters relating to Sandwich. Town Clerk, did Councillor Chandler?
No, so there isn't any report.
There isn't a report
She's
either, is there?
reported in ill. She's not too well.
I see,
That's why
okay
she's
then.
not attending.
Perhaps we could follow up and ask if there was like a report of matters, because we don't want to go 2 months without any update on matters to do with KCC at all. So, Councillor Tuker?
Just there was an action from the last meeting, and there might be another one, I'm not sure, from Councillor Wells, but certainly there was one from me regarding the use of speed cameras. I checked with the resident a couple of days ago, and they've not had any contact yet. So, in effect, we'll be looking at 2.5 months to have the opportunity to ask what's happened.
And I met the same, I think it's the same resident, I met the same one myself actually on, that was on Saturday, and he confirmed that to be the same. So could we follow up on
Yes,
that?
I'll make
Thank
that
you,
one.
that's super, thank you very much for that. So, and then item number 9 is a report from local police representative and community warden for Sandwich, and this would be to receive reports from the local police representative and or community warden, Peter Gill, if available. Do we have anything at all?
Yes, so PC Lauren sent her Sandwich newsletter, so I can read that to everybody. So this is community events attended and next month's events in surgery. This month, this is PC Lauren, I attended the coffee morning at St Clement's Church and spoke with the attendees. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the drop-in session at the Jubilee Centre as planned. I have asked for the council to forward any local issues raised by residents to me, and I will follow these up. There was a My Community Voice community engagement event held on the 22nd of February at the Guildhall in Sandwich, and several people visited the stall to speak to officers from the Rural Task Force and the neighbourhood team, as well as the community liaison officer. People were encouraged to sign up for the My Community Voice and were able to raise local issues. So the drop-in surgery, PC Lauren said to be confirmed, and I will broadcast this on my Community Voice with the date and the time. Incidents of note: this month there was an operation to tackle ongoing issues involving teenagers causing antisocial behaviour in Deal, Sandwich and Ramsgate. This was a joint working initiative with neighbourhood officers in Dover and Thanet, as well as British Transport Police and Special Constables. Both uniformed and plainclothes officers carried out patrols, speaking to young people and reminding them of the negative impact antisocial behaviour has on others in the community. As a result of the operation, a youth was arrested in Sandwich and then taken home to his family following reports of criminal damage to a car and shoplifting in the town. He has since been issued with a community resolution. Another juvenile was arrested in Minster for breaching a community protection notice, prohibiting her from being part of large groups or behaving in a way which could cause alarm or distress. She was referred to the Youth Justice Team and will appear before a youth court in March for breaching the CPN. Further to this, alcohol was seized from several teenagers, 5 people were stopped and searched, and 15 penalties were handed out by British Transport Police for travelling on trains without a ticket. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Town Clerk. And then item number 10 is updates from the councillors, and this is to receive and note verbal updates from the councillors on meetings that they have attended as nominated representatives on the council. After the councillors have actually raised any matters this evening, I will also be asking the Town Clerk to take the floor on a number of matters as well. Councillor Ungerson, please stand. Thank you.
I'm pleased to tell my councillor colleagues that I attended the curfew bell ringers supper, which was both enjoyable and interesting, I think is one way of describing it, and I hope it will continue as a town council tradition.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Ungerson. That's excellent news. So, Councillor Morehouse, could I ask you to?
Yes, I attended the Gaze and Salts Nature Reserve meeting that was held on Thursday, the 15th of February. The meeting didn't quite go ahead as planned because there had been some concern raised about the way in which the committee was being led, shall we say, and that then led to only very urgent matters being discussed at that meeting, and a further meeting being an extraordinary meeting being arranged for last Thursday. At the Premier meeting, the first meeting, there was at least 4 committee members that called upon the existing chair to resign. The existing chair did not offer his resignation at that meeting, but did subsequently send in a letter offering his resignation. And this resignation was accepted unanimously last Thursday, and we have a new chair in place, an interim chair, and that is John Summers.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Morehouse. That's very grateful to pass that on. So the committee will be going ahead in a positive motion. That's good to know. Thank you very much for that. I think Councillor Ripley was first.
Yeah, I also attended that Gaze and Salts Committee meeting, and I just want to reiterate our support for the Gaze and Salts volunteers and everything that they do, which is an absolutely magnificent job down there. Also, I attend Sandwich in Bloom meetings, and absolutely fantastic, overwhelmed by the amount of effort they all put in, as is to be seen down at the quayside now with all the beautiful planters and the new plant being put in. They do a fabulous job down there. And the other thing was, I went to the tourism forum eventually the other night, and I was very, very impressed by the numbers of people involved and the enthusiasm as well. and I have got something lined up for people if they wish to partake in. It's hopefully we can go for this World Heritage Site thing, but it does need a few very clever people to put something together. So hopefully we'll get some volunteers to help with that at some stage.
Oh, super, thank you very much for that, that's most useful. I had Councillor Black and then Councillor Marie after that, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I also went to the Tourism Forum. When you talked about a wonderful secretary, I'm presuming you're referring to Jill, but unfortunately I've been lumbered with doing the next one.
I was referring to yourself, actually.
Oh, thank you. But we've got some plans to get some information out to people. So the first meeting is always impossible to prepare for. The second meeting we can prepare a lot more, and we like to do that. And now we've got the information from White Cliffs Tourism, and I'd like to do also a comparison with Deal to see what's different. Also had a meeting at Age Concern about the possibility of any needs they might have in terms of community transport. I've got two other meetings related to that, one in Woodmansborough tomorrow and one in Worth the day after, to talk to their parish councils, because I think we need to look, if we're going to look at community transport, we need to ask where should the boundaries lie. So we've got that. And then finally, I had another meeting of the Railway Liaison Group, where there is nothing huge except that they are still very interested in doing town and bringing tours to Sandwich, and the History Society are interested perhaps providing some tour guides, but that's still very much embryonic.
Super, thank you very much, that's very positive.
Thank you. Councillor Black, what was the name of that liaison group?
The railway one.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Railway Liaison Group. And then I believe I have Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So I also attended Gays and Salts very briefly, the extraordinary meeting that was held last week. Myself and the fellow STC trustees have all agreed that is to work together for the best and to make sure that Gays and Salts thrives in the future. Everyone agreed that a fresh new approach and fresh new leadership was needed, and they agreed and they voted for it. I also attended the Tourism Forum, as you said. I said a lot of experience there, a lot of people that have got a lot of knowledge, and hopefully we can work together. Long way to go, but hopefully we can work together and hopefully provide some more tourism for the town. The other thing is I attended the Sandwich Community Lights AGM. I'm pleased to say that the new committee has been formed. I've now taken the chair back. Councillor Mallet is the vice chair. Siobhan Matthews is secretary, and Steve Bassett is treasurer, with brand new committee members within the team, where we are getting the ball rolling to start for this year.
Excellent, that's very good news. I'm glad to hear that. Hopefully my apologies were conveyed, because I was away at the time, otherwise I would have actually attended, because it's a very important meeting. Thank you for that. So, did we have any other councillors at all? Councillor Miles?
Yeah, you referred earlier to the cinema, so I thought I'd just report back on that, because we had a meeting last week.
Please do, yeah, that's
the
most...
Finance and Assets Working Group. A few of us went to meet the lessee of the cinema. It was a very interesting tour of the building, and I've undertaken to write the history of the cinema, so I'm working with the museum coordinator on that. But we do need to engage with the lessee and try and make sure that the friends group that's been set up comes in and supports him, and that we talk really about the long-term future of the cinema, because we don't really have a succession plan in place at the moment. We need something to make sure that cinema carries on for future generations.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's most important. I was very upset I wasn't actually able to make that one myself. So I was very grateful that a number of councillors were actually able to go along, and this liaison with all the town council assets is something that is massively overdue, and I would like to say publicly I apologise to any of our tenants that there's been a lack of communication or liaison, and hopefully with the new council and the councillors that I have that can work forward with these tenants and make the best of these assets, not for the town council but for the people of Sandwich, and they've got the services that they require. Councillor Ripley.
This is just for Councillor Wiles, really. If he's writing a history of the cinema, he might be quite interested in some of the stuff that we were looking at in the archives and the collections last week about the films, some of the films that were shown in the cinema in the 60s. A lot of them loads of very foreign films, and some of them were slightly as well. So he might be interested in those.
Oh, well, super. Thank you very much. we perhaps won't go any further on that matter. Thank you very much for that, councillors. And I think that emphasises what I said at the beginning of this meeting. Is I'm very lucky that the councillors that are serving the council from May 2023 are very enthusiastic, very well qualified and very dedicated. So I'll just reiterate how grateful I am to all of you for going out and doing what you're doing. It's a real pleasure to work with you. So item number 10 is, beg your pardon, item number 11 is financial information. And this is to receive and note the Sandwich Town Council statement of accounts as at 31st of January 2024. And this is the income and expenditure budget. And this is attachment number 3. Do we have any questions on this income and expenditure? If we do not, could I have a proposer and a seconder to take this item forward? Councillor Tuker to propose, and could I have Councillor Franklin to second? Thank you very much. And all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much, and that item has been passed. Thank you for that. And item number 12 is the proposed financial software procurement, and the council is to receive a report from the RFO with the recommendation for the Finance and General Purposes Committee that 2 identified financial software quotations have been processed for consideration by council. The F&GP committee recommends the inclusion of a booking software option to assist with the streamlining process for hirers and officers. Members are asked to consider the report and approve the procurement of a suitable finance software package with a booking software option included. This is attachment number 4, and a decision is required on this.
Thank you, Mr.
The Town Clerk does have an update for us.
Yes, thank you. So since the Finance and General Purposes Committee, the RFO has been working on the feedback, which you'll see was in your report included. But she's actually been working on today some comparisons as well about the contract term. So I'll just
distribute those. One of the things that I just wanted to say before there's any further discussion on this, which I discussed with the Town Clerk earlier this evening, which is a consideration I think that should be undertaken, is that the responsible financial officer for the duration of her career with this council has been extremely dedicated and very hard-working, and has had to make do with the use of Excel spreadsheets and putting things together to keep this council, which she has done, on a balanced budget and on a true financial track all these years. And I believe that the financial officer deserves actually the best that we can give her, and secondly that we can future-proof any future growth or changes to do with the council. And one of those changes will be, as well as the Sandwich Town Council accounts that have to be processed, this council is very unusual in that it has not one, but it will be having 2 charity accounts to manage as well. So please remember to process those items when you think about what decision we make this evening. Councillor Morehouse, did you have a query?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Following on from your comment about giving the best system, I would propose that we go with Realtus. Having been a user of ERP systems for 30 years, the best you can get is the best you can give to your staff.
Indeed,
And
I agree.
I consider it an investment. What worries me about the Advantage system is it's only offering 3 hours training. Why?
Yes.
I prefer something that's comprehensive and is giving 3 days training. So my proposal would be to accept the Realtus proposal, the quote.
Thank you very much.
And the payment terms, is this payment up front or?
I believe,
So-
town clerk.
Yes, so obviously the upfront cost is what is the comparable difference between Advantage and Realtus. But once you get past the first year, there's, it's about £1,000 a year difference.
Yeah.
So it is the upfront cost, and as you say, I think you need to consider the training and the support that is offered, which you do get what you pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just to make that clear, on the item you've just been given
Yes.
tonight, obviously there is a very distinctive year 1 cost between the 2 systems, but as Councillor Morehouse has said, perhaps there's a reason behind that, that if you're going for the best that you can get, obviously it costs more to get that set up. But from year 2 onwards, if you see, there is a very, very small, there's a much smaller difference between the ongoing costs year on year from year 2. So were there other questions? Councillor Black?
Councillor Wild.
Councillor Miles first.
Yeah, so a couple of questions. In the feedback from local councils, one of the councils said Advantage is not fully cloud-based, but the report says both systems are cloud-based.
Yeah.
But also these figures in the report, the total cost year 2 ongoing 3537 for Realtas, and in the report 1531 for Advantage, but in this piece of paper it's suddenly 2395. I'm not sure where the new figure has come from. I mean, that makes it much closer, whereas in the report there's a clear gap between the 2.
Yes, I think on closer inspection, when me and the RFO looked at the quotations, there was a little figure that Advantage had been overlooked. So that's why you've got a slight difference there. And sorry, what was the other query?
One, it says it's not one of the feed
Yes.
cloud-based.
So
it's
they
not
are
fully cloud-based.
Yeah, so they are what they call cloud hosted. So they are not fully cloud based, but they are cloud hosted is the term.
I see.
I think someone who's IT would understand that.
Indeed, yeah, I do there. So I believe we've got a number of questions. There was Councillor Black, Councillor Carter, and then Councillor Mallet, please.
I raised this question at the F&GP and I haven't had an answer. If we look at what they do and what they don't do, the Realtus gives us a P&L for charity, but doesn't give us markets. It's the reverse for Advantage, and I really do think we need to be very clear which is more important. Well, you're not going to, by the sound of it, you're not going to get both, but it strikes me that the markets bit is more important, because the P&L for the charity is something that the auditors do anyway.
I see. Did you have an answer for that question, Councillor Morehouse?
Just a further question. With Realtus, is it a programmable system where you could actually bolt that market onto it?
So there are additional modules that you can purchase. I don't know that Markets is one that is currently available, What I would say is I can't quite see how the council would make use of a markets module rather than the profit and loss. I think will be very useful, because as the Mayor said, there's going to be potentially another charity, the Maddox charity, and I think this would future-proof for the council. The markets module, I don't see, things like the booking system is absolutely essential. Then there's the allotments, which Realtors do as well, and Advantage. That is another module that is absolutely essential, allotments. And then there's asset management as well, which I think would be very, very useful for the council. But something that is around markets, I'm not sure that would be terribly useful to us, because it's not something I've had experience of, and I don't quite see the necessity for it. I think that's something we could work without. But other things that obviously are very critical is allotments, assets, a booking system. Those things are very critical for the council.
I thought that both of them covered allotments and assets.
Yes.
So, I'm sorry, the distinction does come back down extremely rapidly to what's more important, P&L or managing markets. And we know how vital markets are to the future viability and repaying this loan. And therefore, I really am surprised that it's being a little bit discounted, shall we say. I don't see how that can be.
That's obviously, that is the Councillor Black, that is obviously the town clerk's opinion,
Of course.
and that is not in any way to sway you to one system or another. She's just giving her personal opinion on that. I had Councillor Mrs Carter first, and then I'll come round the table to you, Councillor Mallet. Councillor Mrs
I
Carter.
believe we don't want any more publicity for the finance officer, because she's got enough work to do. So I believe Advantage is better one, because it's less complex. She just can get on with it. It's big enough for Sandwich Town Council and the folk, because the Miata is very complex. It's a very large council, and I don't think it's suitable for Sandwich Town Council. I read into that. It would be too much functions, and she hasn't got time to manipulate. And I think then less time for training as well, because the more training you have, you don't actually use all the functions.
No.
That's my belief, is because we only have small council. You've also got separate accounts. It's not large accounts.
No.
It's a smaller. I mean, even though we have another charity, it's only a small account, so it's not. It's a large organisation.
Sure, thank you very much for that opinion, Councillor Mrs Carter. I then had Councillor Mallet, please. And then
Mr Mayor, councillors, a few points here. Realtors stating a more complex system, Advantage being less complex. I put it to you that Microsoft Word is one of the most complex systems you can ever come across, but we only use that much when it is that much.
Indeed,
like
I agree with you.
Programming,
indeed,
all sorts. So I would put it to you that the complexity and the extra price is not necessarily something to consider. In terms of the extra day's training, we would be looking at an extra £6,000 for 1 day's training. So with regard to the difference in price, I'm not sure complexity, extra days training, whether we should be assuming that 8,800, sorry, 8,000 and a lot is justifies, whether we're justified in assuming that that extra money means we're getting a better system or a more appropriate system. And in discussion, and one of the questions I raised during the F&GP was, are they, if we went for one, can we migrate to the other? Yes, we can. So obviously there is an overhead in transferring from Microsoft Excel to one of them. If it turns out that it's not quite what we're after, we can, not so much just press a button, but the equivalent, transfer to the other. Just to finalise the point, we are being asked to make this decision. I would suggest that the finance officer should have a bigger say, because they are the one that will ultimately be using it.
Indeed, thank you for that. Then I've got Councillor Tuker, Councillor Marie, Councillor Ungerson, and then back to Councillor. So Councillor Tuker first. So.
Thank you. So I approached it slightly differently in the sense of I wanted to see an analysis of the requirements that were needed by the finance officer, and the tick listing here came out of the request I made. So this is my focus, taking into account also the cost comparison. Both Realtis and Advantage deliver what we want.
Indeed.
Whatever we procure will be a step change in terms of how we run the service. So I'm not swayed to invest another, well, it's 3 times in the first year, when I'm not convinced that I see anything that suggests it gives us something we need.
Indeed.
And that the other system doesn't give us.
Indeed.
There are issues about cloud hosting versus cloud-based,
yeah.
but as a small parish council, I'm not sure that is integral to our business delivery. It's their model. They'll still deliver it, and as Councillor Mallet says, if we find within the period that we run with it, it's not acceptable, we can always move.
Indeed.
So I'm not minded to invest at the level that Realtis would expect us to.
Thank you for that opinion. I've got Councillor Marie and then Councillor Anderson and back to Councillor Carter.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask a quick question to the Town Clerk. So you said about the market models. How much extra would it have to be if we put the market model onto the Realtis? Was it included in the price that's there?
No, so there isn't a market module available on Realtis.
Right.
There isn't one at the moment.
My personal opinion would be to go Realtis. This council is not just a normal parish council. We have a lot of assets, a lot of money, and I think it needs to be looked after carefully. And my concern would be the 3 hours worth of training for a system based for a very intelligent RFO. I don't think it's suitable. I think the Realtis one will be a bit better one to do.
Super, thank you for your opinion. Councillor Anderson.
Yes, I want to look at this in a different context of the overall budget, because I'm not clear whether we've got where the money will come from, but I think we do have to bear in mind that if we spend 8,800, that will mean that there will be other services which will presumably get less, and we need to consider that context, and that's just the point that I want to make, that this is not, I think they, from my economics, I think they were called indifference curves, that we don't have an indifference curve here, we do actually have.
Indeed, that's true. Can I just bring your attention to, I think it's page number, is that page number on there?
Oh no, sorry, it's not.
That's a small, all right, okay, so anyway, towards on the last page, towards the recommendations, just so that you're all very clear, the RFO has put in a summary of available budgets in year 1, just to reiterate what Councillor Anderson said there, and so there are some figures there which bring it up to a total of 7,200 there. So the RFO, to be honest and equal on this, has put down that the current budgets would accommodate the Advantage or Scribe systems. Obviously, to purchase the Realtis system, there would be perhaps a need to transfer some money from another budget if we did go ahead with that. But you know, we would make sure it wasn't any budgets that were ring-fenced for essential services, obviously, just to give a bit of clarity to that. So, if that's okay. And back to Councillor Mrs. Carter.
Yeah, I've just got another question. I'm wondering how much systems support with this, either of them can support the IFO. Because when you set up accounts, when you new, you need a lot of support for the provider. Does she have a contract? The contractor can support her continue, like 24/7. Any support that I think is a part of the contract.
Yes. I mean, I can't speak about
Yes.
Advantage.
Yes.
I have had experience with Realtis, and there was somebody that you could telephone.
Yes.
But I'm assuming that Advantage will probably have exactly the
Yeah,
same
I think
setup.
that's
They
quite
usually
important because
yeah,
that's what
they usually do.
Okay.
Sue. Okay.
Well, that was one comment.
Right. I think we've taken enough comments and opinions to try and take us forward. Can I just read through the recommendations that we've got to achieve this evening? Please can members decide which financial software system to recommend purchase of to be used by the Sandwich Town Council and Sandwich Tollbridge Fund. Secondly, the other recommendation is please can members decide if they're happy to also recommend purchase of a facilities booking system from the same software company in order to streamline the Guildhall bookings and invoicing. So they're the two items that we need to do. So we need to obviously do the first one before we can do the second one. We already have a proposal on the floor, so we have to look at that proposal first. So Councillor Morehouse's proposal was to adopt the Rialta system. So I would like to ask if there is a seconder for that. So Councillor Marie is seconding Councillor Morehouse's proposal. And then could I have a vote? Those in favour of the Rialta system, please show. Could we make a note of these?
Yes, 1, 2, 3. Councillor Wells? Okay, so 3 in fact, right, so that's failed.
So yeah, I'm sorry that
right,
proposal's
yeah,
now
thank you.
failed there.
Yeah.
So, and could I have a, oh, you're abstaining, were you?
Yeah.
Councillor
sorry,
Tom,
one-
sorry.
one abstention, sorry.
Abstaining.
Thank you.
So could I now have a secondary proposal to take forward, Councillor Wiles?
Yeah. Could I just speak on something?
Briefly?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a really hard report. I prefer reports with clear recommendations. I would prefer to know exactly what the finance officer's preference is. Reading between the lines, I think Rialtas is the preference, but it's not explicit. I don't like reports where we're asked to decide between chalk and cheese or between apples and lemons. So I prefer a clear recommendation. I think initially it was quite clear that Rialtas was much more expensive, but now this new paper seems to suggest they're much closer together. But I don't feel sufficiently clued up about either system. I haven't seen them in operation, I haven't seen them working. It's a hard decision, I think, for us to take as councillors. That's my
Indeed.
Anyway.
So thank you very much for that. Could I, oh, is this a question or a
I just
proposal?
want to remind Councillor Wells that we did decide at Finance and General Purposes that there shouldn't be a single recommendation as a consequence of an intervention from me. So if you want to blame anybody for there not being recommendations from the RFO, it's my fault. But the committee supported my point of view.
Super. So could I ask for another proposal to be put forward, please? Councillor Marie?
If councillors agree, if it would be possible, as Councillor Wells said, a bit more clarity from the RFO. Maybe I propose that it's to be deferred to get some more information from the RFO. What she would like.
I'll bring the town clerk in here.
Okay.
Thank you for making that proposal,
Yeah.
but there is a matter that needs to be considered.
Thank you, Councillor Marie. It is a time pressured situation now because we want this system to be live from the 1st of April, which is a new financial year. We're at the end of February, so I'm really sorry there isn't any more time for any more clarity, that there is really a decision needed. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
But thank you for putting that forward. We do need to make a decision tonight, and I do need a proposal from the floor. So
in that case, I propose we adopt the advantage proposal.
I see.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
That's we've got 2 seconds there. So can we just vote on that one first, that item there? All those in favour of the advantage?
1, 2, 3 against and 1 abstention.
Abstention. So thank you very much. That's
Thank you.
carried.
Yeah.
And then the second item is, can members please decide if they're happy to also recommend purchase of a facilities booking system from the same company. Had Councillor Wiles, had you actually put that proposal forward?
I'm happy to.
Are you happy to put that forward? So Councillor Wiles has put forward about buying the facilities module for the same software package advantage at the same time. Those that are happy with that, please.
I'll second that.
And you'll second that. Thank you very much, Councillor Black. Those in favour of the the facilities package?
Yeah.
And that's all in favour?
Yeah.
And apart from one there, thank you.
Be in favour if it was reassessed.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that. And that item has been passed as well.
Yes.
Did you have anything for Sam? No, yeah, that's okay. Thank you very much for that, councillors. That I'm sure the RFO will be very pleased to take that forward. Item number 13, councillors, is the Bulwarks play area and STC proposed contribution, and the town clerk is to share a report with members that outlines the recommended contribution to DDC in relation to the Bulwarks play area project. The Finance and General Purposes Committee support the proposal that's been put forward, and the council is requested to consider if the SLA with DDC should be renegotiated, and if so, that the service fee be deferred until the 2024-25 budgetary purposes. A decision is required on this, and this is attachment number 5. Can I just say, if there is any business talk like this that anybody doesn't understand, please do ask. So if anybody doesn't understand, SLA is service level agreement. So if you do come across any of these acronyms that you don't know, please do ask even myself or the town clerk. But sorry to say that. Councillor Chuka.
Thank you. So we had a detailed discussion about this at Finance and General Purposes. From a personal perspective, I support both recommendations, providing a financial contribution towards the Bulwarks play area project and to renewing the SLA service fee, but with the aim of it commencing in 25-26. The other aspect that's included in the report is looking for someone to offer to represent STC on the project. I'd like to put forward my name in terms of that. I've taken an active role in getting us to this position. There's a number of things I've done in the lead up to this in relation to making sure we were clear about the funding that was outstanding. Also engaging DDC in the process in terms of us not just being a consultee. Also arguing that that how we might want to approach this in terms of providing a contribution to the project. So the proposals there, I've had some input from the town clerk. And then finally, my past experience in terms of project delivery over a number of years, I feel that I would be suitable to be involved in this effort.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Chuka. And I must say it's a really enjoyable and positive thing to see this. Councillor Franklin, myself and possibly Councillor Marie will tell you that for too many years the play areas in Sandwich have fell into more and more degradation and despair, as it were. So, and in fact I was a part of a scheme with a previous councillor called Phil Scott, and we actually had plans drawn up to completely redevelop the Bulwarks play area. And as I said, I think at one of the meetings, the problem with it was there was a very large amount of capital that was required to take that forward. So it dropped by the wayside and it was never picked up again. So I take, was that your proposal that you're putting forward, Councillor?
I'd love to put my name forward as a representative. Yes, that's
and for the recommendation to accept.
Yes, the only thing I would want to flag up, this investment, whilst it might seem a significant amount, actually in terms of a play park refurbishment, it will only deliver elements.
Indeed.
So we need to make sure we don't run away in terms of saying that we're going to have a complete overhaul of that play park area. We have to be very clear about how we target the money itself in terms of the project.
That is correct. Yeah, I'd reiterate that play area equipment and the the ground and everything, the development of it is very, very expensive. And as I say, I've been through this process several times, and it's the figures start going very, very high there. Councillor Marie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a long time coming. We know that the Southern Water obviously gave the money up for the play area because that's part of it. DDC have been sitting on it for a very, very long time, which is unacceptable. The town team have been heavily involved in this as well over the last few years to try and get the money out as well. Yeah. I am more than happy to second Councillor Chuka's recommendation.
That's superb. Thank you very much for that. That's very good. Very wise words. So we've got a proposer and seconder to accept the recommendations based on the report based by the town clerk. All those in favour of that recommendation?
Councillor Suka being the nominated councillor.
Yeah, sorry, that will include Councillor Shuka as the nominated councillor for Sandwich Town Council. Thank you for that, Councillor. So that's unanimous. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
That'd be good to see. Gosh. So go ahead. Time for that. That's excellent there. And item number 14 are events on the Guildhall Forecourt Square. Update, members to receive a report from the town clerk with an update on the hire of the Guildhall Forecourt Square in relation to fees charged. This is attachment number 6. Decision is required on this. And Councillor Chuka, you have a...
Yes, having seen the material that's been issued, I think we need to refocus the outcome of this discussion. So I was going to propose a motion and that we reconfirm that the decision taken in December still stands, but with 2 addendums to that decision. The first is that a temporary adjustment is applied specifically for a number of festivals that previously used the forecourt. So that's the Forecourt Festival, the Christmas Lights Switch On, the Food Fair, the Weekend, and the Sandwich Festival. Should any of these plan to run their events in 2024 on the forecourt, they should be allowed to pay a reduced fee of £25 per day for each day of their hire this year. The second addendum is that a full review of the agreement, including the categories for fees, is completed over the next 6 months. Under the control of Finance and General Purposes Committee, and that an updated agreement and any changes to the process are presented to STC at the end of September. Now, if I can just quickly explain why, rather than just leave that standing there. So
please
the context of this is that we're starting from the point that when we started on this journey, it was about the use of the forecourt is driven by the need to meet the previous STC commitment that the forecourt loan repayments will be funded by increased forecourt income, not by the council tax precept.
No, that's correct.
If we are not serious about meeting this commitment, then we need to be honest with residents. We also need to recognise that an about turn on the level of fees applied will reduce income for the forecourt for this year by an amount in the range of £1,500. So if we do go down this line, then that's the opportunity lost. STC did resolve in December to adopt the hire agreement put in front of them, and that the event fees presented were to be adopted from the 1st of April. Councillor Gray was asked to check that the document from a legal perspective before it was issued. This was suggested by Councillor Breen, but it was not relating to the level of fees.
No.
It was making sure that the documentation was accurate and relevant. There has been no subsequent agreement since December's meeting that the hire agreement should be reviewed. So we've come here today still with an agreement reached in December. Now guidance is that once a decision is taken by council, it should not be reversed for 6 months unless a special motion is agreed by council. We haven't done that.
No.
My view is that we should apply the 6-month rule as good practice even if our standing orders are silent on the matter. The report presented at this meeting proposes 2 additional types of organisations be added under the category of charity or community events. And they are in unincorporated community associations and community benefit societies. This proposal today is made without any supporting detail on why these organisations should now be included, and an understanding of what this means should new organisations step forward, apart from the ones I've mentioned, wanting to book the Forecourt and claiming to fall under either of these categories. We're also seeking to view accounts as part of the booking process. This type of request is reasonable when considering the payment of the grant, but I would argue very strongly anybody wanting to book one of our facilities should not be asked as part of the process to present their accounts to us. If we were to go with the proposal today, we appear to be rushing into a vague set of proposals without understanding the basis of the need to change and the wider impact on giving an approval to what's in front of us, and that's why I've presented the motion. My motion specifically supports those organisations we already know about, but only as a temporary measure for now. It provides a dispensation that is time-bound, but also allows sufficient time for us to review the outstanding issues raised at December's STC and to improve the hire agreement form and process. Finally, I just want to say that the Town Clerk developed a set of proposals that are aligned to the original aim and are similar to approaches applied by other councils. But since doing this, she has had to deal with a significant amount of pressure for a number of councillors on this issue. And I'm not sure that this has really helped us as a council, and it certainly hasn't helped the Town Clerk in terms of delivering the role for this issue, but more widely.
I agree. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Chuka. I think Councillor Marie was next, actually,
Yeah,
and then Mallet, and then Gray.
This is no time for arguing. So I welcome what Councillor Chuka said. It is a step in the right direction, I believe. The events in the town are very well established. They have been for many years. The question is when I would like to be part of that process, when that is being looked into as an event organiser myself, and also as a Sandwich Town councillor, to look at to go through the fees, to see if something can be done as a joint thing regarding the Sandwich Town Council and the events as well, to come to form of understanding. The other thing I'd like to do is I know that the Town Clerk had a meeting with the chairman of the Folk and Out Festival last week, and has asked if she can confirm whether their booking for this July is whether it will be charged at the rate that we're saying with £25 per day, because they are up against it at the moment. They are really coming up to the point where they have the point of no return for either having it on the square or cancelling it on the square.
That's it. I think we can say that after this,
I'm gonna
after
say
the
it
vote.
depends on
We
the
can
decision.
get back to you after this
Yeah.
vote, if that's okay, Councillor Marie. I had Councillor Mallet, Councillor Gray, and Councillor Wiles. Councillor Mallet next,
Mr. Mayor,
please.
councillors, thank you for letting me speak. I have prepared something. Councillor Chuka has rather undermined most of what I'm going to say. I'll say it anyway. There was one point, use of electricity, with regards to the comment, supply of suitable electric cables and any other equipment is the responsibility of the hirer. We do provide electric cables, and I do appreciate that if one's dealing with a huge amount, electricity doesn't really come very high in that. So in reviewing the use of and the rules with regard to hire, perhaps we can just clarify that one. More generally though, I completely understand the need to have a recognised way in which we can differentiate between commercial and volunteer activities using the forecourt, which I think is pretty well what we're looking at. That the initial proposals being to regard CIC and CIO or similar as necessary prerequisites, plus an assumption, which I got wrong as well as others, that SCEA was a CIC and events would be under that umbrella. So that carpet was pulled out from under our feet, essentially. Looking at becoming a CIC and the additional costs on a per event basis makes the voluntary events increasingly unaffordable and adds layers of bureaucracy, which we have avoided over the years. Equally, the events being highly focused, relying on 100% voluntary input, run on a shoestring and passing funds from year to year, often with very different committees and focus, negate the ability to apply for a CIC or similar status. In fact, being a CIC, essentially, it's a limited company. I would suggest also that CIC being a limited company, allowing directors to pay themselves, and this is, I think, a very key thing that we need to consider, allows for abuse of the system that assumes which assumes that voluntary means just that. I could expand on a situation that Sandwich Lights almost fell into. I won't, because it will be a bit long, take a while. So going forward, we have a system that has worked. We seem to be working towards formalising this along with various checks. Those checks most likely working their way into STBF applications, because clearly STBF is something that any festival organiser will consider as well. Can I strongly recommend that we have as an aim that STC sets out to actively encourage the continuance of our areas, of our series of festivals, which clearly we've touched on there. It would be a nonsense to focus on such as a tourism committee on the one hand, while obfuscating against the very groups that bring in so much energy and so much trade to the town. It's clear that those who manage and run our festivals serve. Let's look towards how we can assist rather than add to their challenges. In terms of trade and supporting the town, when all is added up, I would suggest that they maybe do more than us. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Mallet. And I'll just say before moving on to Councillor Gray, and I'd like to say this from the chair of the council here, is that this council has on no account tried to target events or events organisers. It's found itself, Councillor Chuka said this earlier, it's found itself in a very unusual situation which it has to undertake a solution for, and this was not directed at events or events organisations. And as Councillor Marie and Councillor Franklin know, having been chair of the Christmas lights for 12 years and actually 18 years as an apprentice there, you know, the events are dear to both my heart and this council, and we would do our utmost to support the events groups from this town and to this town at all times, and that's always been our prerogative there. Thank you very much. Councillor Gray, thank you for being so patient. Would you like to take the floor?
Thank you. I think Councillor Suka's suggestion is a very sensible way of getting out of what one has to admit the council has got itself in a bit of a bind. It did adopt these rules in December. I was not present at that meeting. I wasn't aware I'd been asked to check it, and I don't really know what their resolution meant. But I think that we've just got to admit that maybe we got it wrong, and say let's try and find a way of getting back so it works again. And I think what Councillor Suka suggested is the right way of doing it.
Super.
And I would certainly approve and second his proposal.
Thank you very much for that. And then we had, I believe Councillor Wiles was next, and then Councillor Morehouse.
Yes, I agree with the proposal that's been put. I think we have to accept and admit when we make mistakes, and I think in this case we haven't handled this as well as we could have done. The meeting we had last year with the event organisers, it was a constructive meeting, but we weren't clear about the kind of legal status that we were looking for, and the report that went in December, I wasn't at that meeting either because I had COVID. It just talks about charity or community events. Evidence will be required, such as charity registration or community status registration, such as CIC or CIO. It's a very vague description, and that's why the yellow bit in the report, which I put in, was proposed, because in fact all of the events groups in Sandwich are unincorporated community associations, apart from I think the 50s weekend.
Just briefly.
The 50s festival is a commercial one.
Yes.
The rest of them are unincorporated. Yeah. Just to point out that when we the Folk and Health Festival have tried to do a CIO, however they were unsuccessful because their criteria for doing so is very high.
Indeed.
So most of the events won't do one.
Thank you for that.
So the fact that they're unincorporated community associations, the point that I was making in this is that we're not looking so much as legal status, but we're looking at evidence of being a community group that's non-profit making. Now, applying for CIC status or CIA status, it might cost £1,000 a year. It's really aimed more at organisations that are operating 365 days a year. These are organisations that maybe put on a weekend's activity.
Yeah.
So I think it's excessive and onerous to expect them to apply for that kind of status. But we do need proof that they are not profit making, that any surplus they can make a surplus by all means, and that might be used to buy new lights or to buy equipment for next year, but the money transfers forward to next year. Indeed. And it doesn't go into someone's account, pocket. No. That's all we're looking for, proof of non-profit making status. So that was the idea. I think so. I'm happy to accept the proposal. I think we have to say we got this wrong. We need to have more discussion with the events organisers. We need to think about this a bit more carefully and come back in September with clear proposals. I accept we need to make money, and that's why we're pushing for the assets officer, because we need more income from the square, the forecourt and from other places. But I don't think making that money off the backs of the events, if they are non-profit making bodies, is the way to do it. It's not sensible, and it will make us very unpopular. I would be in favour of increasing the £25 a day, perhaps to £50 a day, and I don't think that's an unreasonable charge for the events, because that's a big gap between 25 and 300 a day. Yeah. So those are the kind of things I think we need to look at. But that's for September. Yeah. Thank you very much. I believe Councillor Morehouse.
Yeah, just briefly on the SCA. The reason the SCA was set up was to support the other events in the town. If you go back 15 years, we had 2 events on in town. It was the Lights and the Festival. And then we had, the weekend was initially set up as a fundraiser for the Sandwich Confleur Twinning Association. But because of the Tour de Sandwich, the revenue was far greater than we needed on the Twinning Association. And a lot of that fund went into setting up the SCA, which then underwrit a lot of the other events. So if the festival fell into trouble, because at one point the festival had to be held at Gays and Salts, it was costing £12,000 a year to put on, and that was a big ask. And had we had invested a lot of money in holding an event on Gays and Salts, and it had been rained off, we'd have lost thousands. So that's why the SCA was set up, to underpin and support the festivals, and also to have a broad, all under one roof insurance policy, rather than each organisation spending £600 a year on insurance, one umbrella insurance to cover all the organisations. Following on from that, there has been some unrest amongst the event organisers, and our contrition is admirable, but how are we proposing now to reach out and offer some kind of olive branch? That's what Councillor Mallet was almost suggesting, because I'm aware that, particularly with Steve Laslett, and putting personalities aside, I don't think anyone's done more to promote events in this town than Steve Laslett has.
No. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Morehouse. So, it'd be very difficult. Councillor Mallet, I'll come back to him. It will be, it's obviously, as I said, and as Councillor Wiles said, I mean, if we have made incorrect decisions. We will admit to those incorrect decisions, but the situation we found ourselves in December was a situation that in my 17 years has never occurred before, where we had to introduce a process or protocol that we hadn't had before, and despite the research and everything that was done for it, the scheme that came up was perhaps not the most popular scheme, and obviously when it is reviewed in September we will do a full consultation with those running events there. So just briefly, and then we have to make a decision.
Briefly,
Councillor
I'm
Malley.
abstaining because I'm biased.
Indeed, oh, thank you for that. That's a very good decision. So, and I'm guessing Councillor Marie will be the same. So, the proposal we have on the table is from Councillor Chllr, and so that is for this year to have a slightly different scheme whereby the sandwich-based events organisations that Councillor Chllr has actually recited will be allowed a £25 fee for this year. So that's what he termed a temporary adjustment for those local groups, and they will have to be actually cited individually, so we don't have any mistakes about those. So
yeah, so the motion I've read out, I have written it down.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
So I've already got an email ready to go if it gets approved.
Oh, super. Thank you very much.
Are as said.
Because we must have things exactly correct. And then secondly, there was the part of the proposal was a full review in 6 months' time as well. So then
completed within 6 months.
Completed within 6 months, so that we're ready for the following event year. So that's the proposal that's being taken forward. I believe Councillor Marie had seconded it, did you?
No, I didn't second it. I would like to.
I said I'd second it.
Oh, super, thank you.
If Councillor Chllr would mind for a quick amendment, is to, as Councillor Morehouse said, an olive branch set out. Maybe we could hold an open meeting with the event organisers to discuss what we've spoken about tonight, and then get them more involved in what we're planning to do.
I see. Would that be?
I don't think it needs to be added into the motion.
No.
I think it's a reasonable suggestion. We start off with the engagement, which is one of the errors we made, which was engaging after we'd developed
the proposal. Indeed, thank you for that. So I've got a proposal and I've got a seconder. All those in favour, please show.
Sorry, could you just read out the names of the
Yes.
I'll get Councillor Chllr to.
So it's for the Folk and Ale Festival, the Christmas Lights Switch On, the Food Fair, the weekend, the Sandwich Festival.
Okay, so those are the particular ones. Temporary. It's a temporary adjustment for this year. So, and those in favour of that proposal that's been proposed and seconded, please show. Could you keep your cards up?
2, 3 abstentions, 4 abstentions.
4 abstentions. That motion is carried. So thank you very much for that. Okay. Item number 15 is weekend market inquiry, and the town clerk is to share a report that relates to a 3-day market event inquiry for the 22nd to the 24th of March 24, and a potential food fair in May, proposed to be held on the Guildhall Forecourt Square. Members are asked to consider the request that is supported in principle by the Finance and General Purposes Committee. A decision is required on this, and this is attachment number 7. The recommendation is this is an inquiry for a commercial booking who will pay the commercial fee on the Forecourt, Guildhall Forecourt, and it is a great opportunity for Sandwich Town Council to generate some income. The town clerk will seek support to accept the booking as a trial event only. So this is not permanent, and it is a trial event only. If there are any untoward or bad occurrences with this option, it will be stopped after the one event. So this is a trial option. So Councillor Morehouse, you first, and then Councillor Marie.
I'm in favour of going ahead with the market proposal. I have a concern about the food fair, because if the food fair, as the SCA consultant, I'm assuming the food fair is not going ahead this year. But say, for instance, next year they would want to try and revive it. Would this then tread on the toes if this event was successful?
So obviously, if there is a food fair already proposed, but I am advised that they're not going to be hosting a food fair here this year. So in this instance, this would be an opportunity for this company to provide a food fair. But obviously that doesn't guarantee them occupancy next year, and that's something obviously council will be able to consider if it does come to the fact that there are 2 requests.
Yeah. So it's
again, this reiterates the point that Councillor Updates made about having a conversation.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, that's true. That'll be taken into consideration, Councillor Moores. Councillor Marie was next, and then Councillor Chuka.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll make my feelings clear at the Finance and General Purposes Committee on Monday regarding the issue. I won't say no more about that. However, I do echo what Councillor Morehouse has said. There is a food fair established, but it hasn't been running for a couple of years because COVID obviously hit, and it's trying to get resources. The other thing that I'd like to mention is that all the SCA use local establishments and local stalls and stuff to use it, but this company doesn't use this places from all over the country. Just want to point out regarding my statement. On my statement, at the front of the statement, it said myself and Councillor Mallet. I asked Councillor Mallet to help me to word correct the statement before it was read out. I didn't ask him permission to use his name on that statement, so I apologise to Councillor Mallet unreservedly for doing that without his permission.
Thank you for that, Councillor Marie. That's very good. Councillor Mallet and then Councillor Chuka, please.
Right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do appreciate the stated apology from Councillor Marie. Just to expand on this, I was asked by Councillor Marie to review the statement regarding the Zoom events. I agreed and noted typos, grammar, and recommended the removal of the comments that were abusive towards our council and various irrelevant comments. I clearly stated in writing to him that it was his comment. Equally, it was referring to a later, cleaned up draft version. Councillor Marie then read out what was effectively the original version with the comments that I said I found objectionable reinstated, and stated by stating that it was a joint statement. In fact, mine was the only name on that statement. It was never a joint statement, certainly not mine. I had even stated to him I was in favour, and I will do one of these on this. I was in favour of what might be a close on £2,000 benefit to the council. I was certainly not to be it was certainly not to be a public statement putting words into my mouth that I found abusive, contradicted me, and had stated, I'm sorry, I was very unhappy when I was writing this. He has now offered an apology, I believe just to me, when I believe it should be equally to the council. Words are easy and can be meaningless, lasting as long as it takes to say them. So, let's see actions and statements going forward to be the contrition of apology. Thank you.
Super, thank you very much. And do you accept Councillor Marie's apology so that we can move forward?
Personally, yes, I'll accept that.
Thank you very much. Briefly, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to extend my apology to the full council.
That's very kind of you. Thank you very much for that. Hopefully we're all settled on that situation now. Thank you. Councillor Chuka was next. So.
Yes, just very quickly. We have a forecourt, we have a loan. We have a commercial company that has run very successful events for the best part of 20 years. They will take a weekend if it's free. They'll run an event, it'll be either a success or it won't. If a local events organisation wants to run an event on a different weekend, brilliant. But we should not somehow feel that we have to exclude external companies coming into town. In fact, the opposite. And it will help raise the game for everybody, and another weekend with an activity that isn't just music based means a different clientele will come to the town. I can't really see why we've got any sort of hesitations around this.
Thank
That's
you.
my personal view.
Thank you for your opinions. Did Councillor Wallace, did you? No, okay then. Super. Could I have a proposer and seconder for this this option that has been put forward? Councillor Ripley, would you like to propose this?
I would.
Indeed, thank you. And do you have somebody to second it? Councillor Tomlins? This is an all ladies motion. This is what I like to see.
Women, shopping, isn't it?
Ladies,
Shopping.
women.
Lady
Actually, we're girls.
Yes, yes, okay. And all those in favour of this proposal, please show. So,
2 abstentions.
and we've got 2 abstentions, which are event organisers, and that has been passed. As I say, this will be a trial event, and the town clerk will be assessing it and will report back to us. So if there are any concerns or issues, then obviously they will be reported back to the council there. Thank you very much, councillors. Item number 16 is Monks Wall Nature Reserve. Proposals for activities for 2024. Members are to receive a report from the town clerk that includes details for the Monks Wall Nature Reserve Warden that spans the period from September 2023 to mid-January 2024. Members are invited. Did you have something to say, Councillor?
No, we just want to move this quick.
To consider the Warden's recommendations for actions and activities for 2024 and to agree the expenditure for the Monks Wall Reserve budget. A decision is required on this. This is attachment number 8, and I would firstly like to say that I'm very pleased that the committee has been reinstated, and I can't say too much about the Warden, who is Ken Chapman, who is so dedicated, and I want to say this on record, that we are very lucky that we've got somebody like him to look after the actual nature reserve there. So could I have a proposer and seconder to agree the plans and actions for Monks Wall Nature Reserve for 2024 and agree the expenditure of £30,950 from the Monks Wall's own reserve budget. So Councillor Franklin?
Yeah, I'd like to recommend it. Yeah, approve the recommendation.
Thank you. And Councillor Ripley seconding that. And all those in favour, please signify. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. And item number 17 is the metal detecting request. And the town clerk has shared a request from the local metal detector for potential permission to detect on Cowley's Meadow. A decision is required, and this is attachment number 9. And I think metal detecting is one of those subjects that, a bit like Marmite, you either like it or you don't like it, and traditional archaeologists are rather against it, but there it is, it's an option to be considered. Councillor Chuka, could you speak, please?
Yes, just very quickly. In principle, I would support this request, but a proviso and a question. So, to start with the question, the request does appear to meet the conditions set out in the policy for metal detecting, but I wanted to clarify from the town clerk if this request can in itself be regarded as forming part of a programme of research. So, looking at the council's policy, it should form part of the programme of research, but when I read the detail that came from the requester, I couldn't quite stretch to that. So that's the question. The proviso is that the volunteer tree warden is made aware of this request and is consulted on it, because a number of councillors, including myself, waded in mud only last week. It would be a great shame if having planted a number of saplings that were dug up again due to the enthusiasm of the metal detectorist.
Taken on board.
Okay.
I can certainly approach the volunteer tree warden.
Yes,
Yeah.
she does need to be made aware. But the question that I raised?
Yes, so I spoke to the museum coordinator, and the thing to consider here is this could be potential income if the trustee wanted to consider the item that, if they find an item, obviously this is scenario, if they found an item and there was a potential income for the trustee, obviously that would be something that the trustee might invite and be welcomed, but it's not, it's a solo person, it's not part of a programme, but equally there might be an item found that under the museum criteria, it wouldn't be an item that the trustee under their policies would accept. So again, there is quite a lot to consider here, and it's whether members want to invite somebody to do a solo detector, metal detecting, or whether you want to revisit, because obviously that policy is quite old, the metal detecting policy is quite old, and it's whether members feel that they would rather defer a decision, consider the policy again, or there's a few options to consider.
Thank you very much for that. Briefly, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have metal detectorists, or detectorists as they're more correctly called, visit my property, and they detect very politely. They dig, they return the soil as is, you wouldn't know they'd been there. So far they've discovered a Roman mirror, which is where I thought there might be, because I think there's a Roman road going through my property. That aside though, should we consider accepting a response like this from an individual when we have had previous response, people asking if they can detect, and we have the St. Port's metal detecting group on our doorsteps, that rather than saying yes to an individual or individuals, we might actually consider having an event which could potentially earn us some money, even if nothing was discovered, invite those detectorists who are registered, who know what to do, invite, for example, St. Port's to oversee it, to make sure everything went through correctly. We then have something that I think would be quite an interesting day, weekend, make us some money, and I think be quite a good thing to do, with a few marquees or gazebos. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So, Councillor Fortescue.
Could I ask for clarification as to what would happen regarding ownership of any items found by
So the person actually, I checked with the museum coordinator, the person has been very clear about the process. So he is documented under Historic Environment Records by Kent Archaeology Society. The town council is the freeholder, and the land is deemed a medieval fair site within the record. There's currently only a grass assemblage designation from DEFRA, which covers the entire area of Sandwich itself, and no protected status generally. The excavations would be shallow and return to their original state in accordance with the NCMD Code of Conduct, of which he is a fully paid member and has £10 million of public liability insurance. So what he says is that he has an account with the Portable Antiquities Scheme and records everything that's over 300 years old, and the museum coordinator has confirmed that that is the correct process. He's also been invited by the British Museum to be a mentor for imaging and recording against the Kent communities, which he intends to devote time to assist others, which is important to the database. Any artefacts recovered, he would love to put on show locally at the Guildhall Museum, which he believes is important to let others see them. So basically, he's adopted the correct approach, and this would, any fines would be pointed first to the British Museum for their assessment. Sorry, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I'm still not quite clear who would actually own any object.
So he would have the option to obviously sell an item, and as landowner we would be entitled to 50%, is what museum coordinators told me. So that he would be entitled to a 50% share, and as the landowner we would be entitled to a 50% share.
But if there was something that the museum really wanted to buy, the other 50%.
Yes, and it would have to be, any fine would have to be checked, assessed by the British Museum, because they are the authority whenever there's an item to be verified, the the value of it,
Value.
it has to be done by a competent person. So that would be undertaken. Somebody like the V&A or the British Museum would undertake that.
So then the museum or the council would have to try and raise the funds to acquire 50% of the value of an object that the museum wanted to acquire. Is that right?
Yes, because that's right, you'd have the option. Obviously, you wouldn't necessarily want it in your collection because it might be the policy that you don't want an item. But that would obviously, the offer would be to the Guildhall Museum first, if the item was found and if it was of interest. And it does stipulate that 50% of the value of the item would come to the council, with the trustee.
So very briefly, Councillor Marie and then Councillor Mallet, and then we have to make a decision on this.
Let's go on from that. So the Southampton Council has a good policy statement on metal detection, bottom page 7. All treasures are defined by the Treasure Act 1996. Together with any artefacts, including amongst others metal objects, including coins, weaponry, jewellery, blah blah blah, is found on land owned or leased by Southampton Council, Southampton Tollbridge Fund, shall remain the property of the council, charity of the council, or the charity's landlord, depending on the wording of the tenancy agreement, respectively. The rules and procedures can be set out in the Treasures Act 1996. So it'd be 100% councils.
We need to review. Thank you. Councillor Mallet, very briefly.
With my cunning plan,
Indeed.
we would be able to set the rules as people came in and paid their fine.
Indeed, thank you for your cunning plan. Councillor Anderson, very briefly.
Yes, I'm very keen on this cunning plan. However, it would need a lot of work, and that worries me. And because we don't, as we know, we don't have that sort of capacity. And unless a councillor is willing to take that on, do all the organising, get the detectorists in and so on, and advertise it, I think probably my view is that we should say yes to this person, and this person may discover something and may find that there's a huge site there, in which case then we move on to considering how we deal with that. But at the moment, I suspect we can't run an event.
No. Councillor Mallet's option isn't actually under review this evening, but it is a very good idea that he would bring forward to another town council meeting, and as soon as he's able to draft a plan or report, and we look forward to seeing that. In the present time, Councillor Anderson, can I take that as your proposal?
No. But I would suggest that Councillor Mallet bring it to Heritage and Townscape because it's very obviously part of heritage.
Okay, can somebody put a proposal forward for a decision on this? I would like to put a proposal from the chair that we do go ahead with this one-off option, and like with the Market Square Group, it is assessed and considered thereafter. So I would like to propose that from the chair. Would anybody like to second that? Councillor Marie. And all those in favour? Okay. And then we've just got one abstention.
Two abstentions.
Two abstentions. Thank you very much, councillors. That is passed. Before we go on to item number 18, which is a large number of policies, we allow you a short comfort break of 3 to 4 minutes, please. And please make use of the two facilities that you have at either end of the corridor. I'd like to re-adjourn the meeting, if I may, and we're at item number 18, which is policies and procedures. The Town Clerk has shared draft policies that are recommended for adoption by the Human Resources Committee. Number 1 is the volunteer policy. So I'll go through these individually, just in case there are any queries or questions on these. And this is attachment 10A. Do we have any issues or concerns over this one? Councillor Black, I believe.
Yes, thank you. I think that it's more of a matter of style, but if you look in section 4 under legals, the requirement to complete a volunteer agreement seems to be stuck on at the end. I really do think that it reads much better if you put it at the top of the section on legals, because it establishes straight away there will be an agreement with you, and you will be required to sign, and then the rest follows. I think it's a matter of much better presentation. And let's face it, we want to get volunteers in.
Indeed.
That's my first point. And the second point is the reference to following the media policy, which I think is absolutely critical. I personally would think it might be better in section 8 under volunteers are expected to, rather than in section 9. It's critical, but I think it sounds better, again, from a volunteer's viewpoint.
Section. Thank you very much for those comments, Councillor Black. Councillor Chuka, please.
Yes, just one comment on the volunteer policy, and that is that can it be confirmed that this will apply to existing volunteers? In terms of how it's drafted, it suggests it's part of the new entrant process as a volunteer. This should equally apply to those that are already serving, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much. Is that okay? So with those amendments, sorry, Councillor Morehouse.
Following on from Councillor Schuker's concern, will the existing volunteers be made aware of the consequences if they don't follow this procedure?
Yes.
Yes, that will be the case. Yes, that will be the case.
So for point of clarification, it will apply to all volunteers
Indeed.
from now on, including existing
Indeed.
volunteers. Thank you.
Indeed, yes, that's not a problem. So with those amendments made by Councillor Black and Councillor Chuka, are we all in favour of that policy? Please show. Okay, thank you. That one's passed. And the next item is the recruitment policy. Do we have any queries or questions on this? This is attachment 10B. If there's any questions or queries on the recruitment one. If not, then I would like to propose that this is taken forward. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yes.
So, Councillor Franklin. And all those in favour, please show. That's unanimous, and that one's passed. And the third one is the complaints policy, which is attachment 10C. Are there any queries or questions on this one? Councillor Black.
Yes. If we look at paragraph 1, we're straight into pretty heavy legal language. And is that really what we want in a policy which is designed to encourage people to make proper complaints? But you're straight into very strong legal language. I suspect this has been lifted from somewhere else, and I don't think it quite sets the tone that you would want to do. Yes, at the end of the day, if it goes to a court, then there is a burden of proof. But I think this sets a very bureaucratic, very legalistic, negative approach for citizens to raise issues.
So
I have.
Or I can take it out if you want to.
Okay, so that item can be removed.
I don't say remove, it just modify it so it's not so heavily legal.
Indeed.
It's because it's very negative. It can be rewritten, I suggest, to be less. I'm quite happy to come and do some work on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I've got two other issues very quickly. On section 3, I'm not sure it's very practical to influence council before it decides or debates something, apart from the public participation. Many people, they don't even see the agenda. None of them see the agenda until the 3 days notice. Now, obviously, that's a struggle getting that out, and we recognise the work of it. But I do think that's a bit impractical. That's not going to work very well. Finally, your standing orders reference is wrong.
Could you explain?
Yes, it says that the standing orders reference is, where is it now? In section 3, on towards the end of the paragraph, have standing orders prevent the council reopening issues for 6 months. That's wrong. They don't.
Yes, because there can be a special motion.
Pardon?
Because there can be a special motion.
Right? It's not in our standing orders. Okay. It is not, when moves change standing orders.
Town clerk.
I don't think our standing orders stipulate about the 6 month rule. That's why it was a bit of a struggle with this events. So we haven't got anything in the standing orders which stipulate anything about a 6 month rule.
No.
The NALC template does. The NALC template does. But we moved away from that. So we haven't got anything in our standing orders that stipulate.
Which means I think it needs a bit of order, a bit of working.
Could I just suggest that we started off suggesting that it's taken away just to be refined between council back and the town clerk?
That's a very good idea.
We can stop there rather than
Indeed, yeah, that's a very good
start
idea.
drafting it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
indeed. So, very briefly,
Yes,
Councillor
very,
Mallett.
very briefly. Our commitment, to provide services that are equally accessible to all people. It's if it was to say, for example, within reason, because all people can mean it's too broad.
I'm proposing, my proposal on this one would be to defer the complaints policy, and we will have input from councillors to the town clerk to amend the different areas on that. All those in favour of deferring the complaints policy? Oh, could I have a seconder for that as well? Okay, Councillor Black, thank you very much. Thank you, and that's passed, that's been deferred. The next item is the Equalities and Diversity Policy. This is attachment 10D. Do we have any comments on this particular document?
Sorry, that
Councillor
was my
Mallett.
comment. But in the context of what Councillor Black was saying on his first comment, being getting it was too bureaucratic, so to speak. Our commitment to provide services that are equally accessible to all people is just too all-encompassing, and easily we just physically can't do that. And in the sense of staircases, there are people who can't go up the staircases.
How they used to live.
Are we talking about equality and diversity, or are we
Well,
still?
that's the equality and diversity.
Right,
We
okay.
have moved on to,
If we put within reason at the beginning of it.
Okay, so did you have a comment, Councillor Wiles?
Is this the equality policy?
Equality policy.
Yeah, so the protected characteristics in the Equalities Act, it lists them, the 9 protected characteristics, and then it goes on to have some definitions: gender reassignment, pregnancy. I think that following list should follow the same structure. So what does it mean about protection of age as a protected characteristic, gender reassignment, etc.? Just so that we're explicit about each of those protected characteristics.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Oh, Councillor Anderson.
Yes. I'd like to disagree with Councillor Mallett. I think what you're proposing is not lawful under the terms of the Equalities Act 2010, where we are obliged to deliver the same services to all people, and the specific case of the staircase is a problem for this council, and we are not actually, by expecting people to come up that staircase, acting lawfully, and that is a problem.
Yes.
And we are going to have to consider that.
I think you misunderstood my statement, which was to all people. All people can. It encompasses too many. People with all sorts of with disabilities. To provide services that are equally accessible to all people. There's always somebody that we can't.
Well, then we have to do something about it. I'm afraid we are under legal obligation to do
by
that.
the Equality Act.
Anyway, can we not have internal discussions, please? Councillor Franklin?
Yeah, we discussed this many years ago, didn't we, with previous. There is access, it's the lift. We did have a councillor that come every meeting in a wheelchair, and we had a disabled toilet put in especially for him, and he never complained, did he?
No.
And it was fully accessible. He used to come up the lift, through the jury room, through that door there, to the other door, and it was accessible. So we are disabled compliant in my view for the age of this building, and I think we still can use the lift and the jury room with special permission from the hirer to let the person through if they so require. And of course now we have it all on tube, don't we? It's on the television now. So a lot of disabled people I know do watch it at home through Christie's lovely efforts.
I do, thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Anderson, briefly.
Yeah, I just want to say that when I had to walk through the jury room under the previous regime, I got a real ticking off for doing that.
Yeah, but did you ask permission?
Well, I hadn't expected to have to walk through an occupied jury room. And at the time I had a real problem with my pacemaker, so I found it very, very difficult to come up the stairs, in fact impossible. So it isn't always the case that one can actually access these meetings, but it isn't always the case.
Anyway, with the amendments that we've got, I'm proposing to take this forward with the amendments that have been made already. Is anybody prepared to second that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Marie. And all those in favour? Two abstentions there. Thank you very much. That item has been passed. The next item, number 5, is the health and safety policy. Are there any questions or queries on the health and safety policy? If there aren't any, I would like to propose taking this forward. Is there a seconder? Councillor Chuka, and all those in favour? Thank you very much, and that's unanimous. Okay. And lastly, second penultimate, lone working policy, number 6, is attachment 10F. And do we have any queries on the lone working policy? Councillor Black?
Yes, thank you. Item 7, duties of the line manager. I'm used to in industries where people have to do a lot of lone working, and I'm surprised there is no reference made to the line manager actively checking on the person. This implies it's all up to the lone worker checking back in, but I think there is a duty of care. It's not done every day, and it isn't done every hour, but I think you should write into here that a requirement that managers make irregular checks. It's the way that the transport industry works, it's the way that others work, and they worked in buildings built in the 1890s with pretty poor security. We've got to be more positive as line managers and check on people. It could be a phone call, but there needs to be a specific check.
Yeah, I am in communication with anybody that's lone working here via WhatsApp or a text. So I do check in with employees. I'm quite often myself lone working, and I do have contact with the mayor.
Yeah.
So there are regular check-ins.
I think it should be in the policy.
Okay.
That's the point, sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Councillor Marie?
Yeah, just quickly to follow on from that, I've done a lot of lone work in councils, especially Spanish District Council as a civil enforcement officer. One of the things that we were given is a thing that we used to use on our phone, on our personal phones, which is a lifeguard, it was called, where if anything happened, they would press an emergency button, shake their phone as it were, and it would contact the police immediately if they're in danger. Maybe the council might consider that.
Thank you very much for that, Karen Clark.
Thank you. Yes, mobile phones are high on my priorities now because the council doesn't provide mobile phones. So I currently use my own personal phone, as do other officers. So that will be an expenditure report to finance and general purposes.
Indeed, that's something that's coming in the pipeline. So also for secondary authentication on systems. So very briefly, Councillor.
Very briefly, yes. 9B. The list is a little bit unusual here. Surely the list should be related to the cost and to the risk assessments. It just say things like water power tools and so on. There are many other tools which really probably require 2 people. I think it should be based upon cost and risk assessment.
Thank you very much for that. So with those amendments, I'd like to propose acceptance of this policy. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. And could I just ask for somebody to second it? Thank you, Councillor Black. That's very good. And lastly is the training and development policy, and this is attachment 10G. And do we have any questions or queries on training and development policy? Councillor Black.
Sorry to keep repeating myself. We're saying this applies equally even to temporary staff who might only be here for 2 or 3 weeks. This is not perhaps the most appropriate wording. And I really think, you know, you're creating a hostage to fortune. When we look at some of the specific job training, I was a bit surprised that 2 are mentioned, such as community governance, town planning, technical support. Seems a strange sort of list of things there. Surely that's a much wider thing, and I would suggest you take out these 2 specific items because they sound as if they're geared for one individual. They may well be, but I think put it in a policy is perhaps not the best way to take it forward. And finally, councillors will be required to undertake certain training. Will?
Well, I mean, that is my experience, that councillors are expected to undertake training when they become a new councillor, like dynamic councillor that Cal provides. If members don't want that to be will, as you know, you can change it, but in my experience, I think it's really important that there is training, and I think it's really important to be clear from the outset with any new councillors that that is what part of the role should encompass, because as we know, training provides, you know, a better outcome for the council. That's officers and councillors.
I fully understand that, but it's this will bit, I think, is a step too far. Okay. Expected, strongly encouraged, by all means. Well, I'm hardly a person to object to training.
And with those amendments, I'm prepared to propose that forward.
Can you just confirm what the amendments are, please?
Oh, sorry?
Just confirm what amendments.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. So first of all, there is the temporary being removed. There is the community governance and town planning technical support. And then there is the all new councillors will be encouraged to attend. So would you second my proposal, Councillor Black? Thank you very much. And all those in favour, please show. And that policy is passed as well. Thank you very much, councillors. Item number 19 is the hub and intruder alarm. The newly refurbished hub has an existing ADT intruder alarm that is still live, and it is proposed that this is used for the new space. Following contact with ADT, there is an annual charge for service and software support. The council is asked to consider agreement to the annual service contract with ADT. This is attachment number 11, and a decision is required. Councillor Marie had his hand up first. So.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say, congratulate and thank the hard-working caretakers that have that bought this hub that was quietly, badly. It was left in a bit of a poor state, and has now been brought out to a very lovely meeting space. So I think that a thanks from this council to them in public is much needed. I recommend this. I propose that the acceptance for this.
Okay, thank you very much. I think Councillor Chuka first, and then Councillor Black.
So it would be a bit absurd to not protect our own assets. However, when I've read through what's been presented, I have struggled with the content on a number of points. So what I can't see, because we are here to decide, but we're here to be informed, to be able to decide. What I can't see is why we've chosen ADT in terms of what's presented. Is it because they're providing the service elsewhere? There's a few questions, so I'll just,
Sorry, Councillor Sickles, can I answer them as you raise them?
Okay,
Thank you, because I don't think I'll be able to remember. So ADT has been approached because ADT are the alarm company that has installed that alarm. So it is their equipment.
That's fine. Couldn't see that in what was presented. How does the quote compare with what we're already paying elsewhere in the building? And is there a reason why we haven't rolled this requirement into the existing provision? It's a standalone quote.
So it is a standalone quote. We do have two other companies actually, because we've got the museum and archive part that's alarmed and the main building. So this is another company, and really it's whether or not you would rather defer this. I seek a quote from one of the alternative suppliers, but it would obviously mean taking out the equipment that's there, that's working currently, and you know, putting in a system that they will support. Because that's my understanding is, if the company has installed it and it's in place, usually it's the company's own equipment and they will support it. And it's not very often that another.
So there might be a follow-on action, which is to investigate whether there's an efficiency to be achieved by looking at rolling all together or component parts.
Yes.
I've looked through the supporting material provided by ADT, and it's very general, to be honest. I'm not clear what we're actually paying for under the description of service and software support. For example, what is the quota? It talks about a quota for 3 call-outs. Doesn't say what that quota is, nor does it say what the charge is if we exceed that quota. And then, how many monitoring and service visits will we receive each year? So it says we'll get that, but is that 1 a year? Is it 12 a year? It's just information that's not in front of me. I completely support the need to protect that area, but it's sort of things I would expect it to have in front of me.
I'd like to make a proposal from the chair that this item is deferred until further information is researched and brought to this council. Do I have a seconder for that?
I was just going to say, yeah, I agree with deferring it, but I think as it's the insurance and the burglar, I think there should be a confidential matter when we do talk about it next time. We shouldn't be talking it in open.
Indeed,
Thank you
very much.
Could we just confirm that there is currently, there is an alarm in there, so in case we get a break in tonight, because obviously it's on camera.
The alarm is working.
Thank you very much. Did I have a seconder to defer this contract? Thank you, Councillor Morehouse. All those in favour of deferring for further information? Thank you, and that is carried. Thank you very much. Item number 20 and 21, I would like to also defer to the end of the Tollbridge Fund so that we can continue with that. Councillor Morehouse, were you seconding that? And all those in favour of deferring item 2021? Thank you very much. That's all in favour of that. Thank you very much. And now we will go into the ordinary